all Alice families.
It's 5:30. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see a good crowd. We precede each council meeting and committee meeting with a word of prayer and pledge of allegiance. If you would like, please feel free to join us. I'm going to ask Alderman Hawks if he would word our prayer for us.
Let's pray. Father, I thank you for today. I thank you for the opportunity to be here. And Lord, I pray that you will be with this meeting and guide it and keep your hand on it. Lord, I pray that you would be with us tonight as we make decisions, Father. And I pray that your will would be done for this city. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to live here and the blessings that you have bestowed upon this great town. Father, pray that you will continue to be with it. And Father, we thank you most of all for your Son, Jesus Christ. And it's in his name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start this meeting. The process tonight, we're going to start with Gordon Welborn. Bond counsel will have, then the council will have questions for Gordon. Then we will open up for public comment, and we're going to finish with Jamie Gates. Before we start, give me just a second, Gordon. I would like to share my convictions on this. A number of people have contacted me and said, Castleberry, where do you stand? So I thought now would be a good time. This is a email I sent to the city council on the 18th. I've got other statements to make, but I want to start with this. City council, I'm writing to you to inform you of my decision to neither discuss a sales tax initiative with the Conway City Council nor to bring it before the people for a vote in 2025. In 2017, we outlined a clear path to take a 3/8% sales tax to the people of Conway for street improvements. The goals were clear, the objectives were clear. In 2025, we have looked at taking a 3/4% sales tax to the people. To me, the goals are not clear, nor the objectives are clear at this time. Our job as elected representatives of the people is to establish the direction of the city and ensure public health and safety. To make matters somewhat worse, we're navigating other pressing issues. These issues include raises for our first responders as well as our other city employees, rising equipment costs, tight budget constraints, and our need to focus on our core service delivery. In addition, the broader economic and political climate, both nationally and locally, require us to be mindful of timing and resource allocation. I recognize the importance of the topic, but I believe it would be more appropriate to revisit this conversation when we're in a stronger position to give the attention it deserves. Next year, my goal is to have a broad discussion with the council at the yearly retreat. With the help of the department heads, let's work together as elected officials to shape the future of our city. So the question is, Castleberry, where do you stand today? Well, I'm going to start with a personal story. My wife and I take care of my 92-year-old mother and my handicapped niece. Neither one of them will take a dime from my wife and I understand that. There's pride in standing on your own. However, 0.75%, they will feel it. They both live on fixed incomes, and they are not the only people in Conway this will affect. Yes, I know the importance of having amenities and creating quality of place, which I am in support of. But I also understand that there's more than just my mom and my niece that this will have an impact on. There are a number of people who live in Conway who live on fixed income, and I am the mayor of those folks also. Another concern I have as a mayor of the city is to have $95 million in debt hanging over us. Should we have an economic downturn, the city will be on the hook for that amount, and that's a big ask for anyone, and it's a concern for me. I've been doing my own surveys. I actually got in my truck for the last 2 days and drove around. You can drive around to any of the coffee shops in Conway, Shadrack's, Seven Brew, any of them. And there's groups of college kids working there. You can also go out to our new center, and there's a lot of college kids working there. And I asked them one question. As a graduating senior, what drives your pick for a hometown? 100% of them said, where I can find my job. When we first started this discussion, we were talking about buying shovel-ready land for new industry. We've gotten away from that, and we are basing our future growth on tourism. I visited with Conway County Judge Jimmy Hart. He will tell you that Conway County is growing because folks feel like that due to the cost of living and the cost of building in Conway, it makes it prohibitive for them. Likewise, Mayor Scroggins will also tell you the same thing about Bologna due to the cost of living and building in Conway. Saying we are losing to people in Northwest Arkansas has validity, absolutely. However, they have a football team that brings in thousands of people every fall. They have a world-class art museum. They have the Hunts, the Joneses, the Tysons, the Waltons. We're going to have to quit comparing ourselves to Northwest Arkansas and be the best Conway we can be. I'm not taking sides here, folks. This is my personal conviction. I am not taking sides, so thank you for the applause, but please don't. This is just Bart sharing what his personal beliefs are and where I stand. The chamber sent us to Oklahoma City to look at their plans to build their city a few years back, and it's a plan that works. But they also gave the voters a choice every 5 years. So what do I propose that we look at? I do propose a 3/4 cent sales tax that will sunset in 7 years. 3/8 will go to an amphitheater and convention center. 3/8 will go to police, fire equipment, as well as streets. There is a private investor who is interested in moving forward on a convention center and hotel. If we are successful and the economy's right, we can bring it back to the people in 7 years and see if they want to move forward with these other projects. I can support a sales tax with a sunset for the Amp and Convention Center. I cannot support a permanent 3/4 cent sales tax. Yes, the bonds will pay off in 30 years and go away. However, that is a long projection based on unknown facts, mainly an economy no one can predict, different mayors, different councils, different priorities. They change. I'm also concerned at the pace we are moving. We need to know a breakdown of the cost to the city in all forms. We need to get at the very least an approximate cost of construction, furnishing, and infrastructure. A year of planning would allow us to exactly know where we as a city stand. It also allows for the general election where we will have a larger voter turnout of the people of Conway that this will have the greatest impact on. So if you want to know where the mayor stands, you now know. As always, it falls with the council and their decision, and I will abide by the council and their decision, and I will support the council and their decision. But again, I do not want any applause. I don't want any pats on the back. This is something that I felt I had to get off my chest. There are very few things that keep me awake at night, but this has kept me awake for some time. I see the need. I believe a amphitheater will make a change in Conway, and I love the possibility of what it can bring, as well as convention center and hotel. But I think we need to slow it down a little bit, and I think we need to look at other options. That being said, Mr. Wilburn.
There we go. Really here to answer any questions, but I would kind of start out just by saying that these two types of questions are under different parts of the Arkansas statute. The bonds are under Act 871, and that is a debt service tax that can only be used to pay debt service on the bonds. You couldn't ever use that for any other purpose. To the extent there are extra collection, it pays off the bonds early. The kind of pay-as-you-go portion of it is a different statute. That part of the question you can designate for any use or no use. I mean, you've passed taxes before that just, it can be used for whatever the general fund can be used for. So whatever you want to put there, the limitations, you're stuck with it. You put it on the ballot, but that's just up to you to kind of tailor the way you want to. On the bond questions, the statute says each separate purpose shall be voted on separately. So you really can't combine a bunch of stuff. You can combine, streets could be a question, parks could be a question, but kind of on these big projects, those need to be separate questions. Now, I'm happy to answer any questions about how it all goes.
So would public safety be allowed to be one question?
If that is a
Public safety capital,
if that's
that would be a pay-as-you-go.
Yeah, pay-as-you-go, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Limited, however, solely to capital improvements or to operating and capital improvements, however you draft the ballot question.
For the things that are bonded, it would have to be each item.
Right. Now, you would say the amphitheater, you would say including parking, landscaping, utility extension, you can kind of everything that goes with that.
Everything related to that.
Yes.
Okay. Even land purchases?
Yes.
Okay. I know Mr. Jones brought that up at the last meeting.
Yeah, I was concerned because they didn't have a location and we already was talking about we're land poor. So I figured it out to be outside the scope of downtown. So that's what was concerning to me because someone could, I don't know, not negative, but I don't know what the price of the land would be. I have no idea, but I'm sure it would be kind of costly. And then I was worried about roads to wherever we got it from. Would we be on the hook for it or would it come out of the taxes? And so it's just so much I didn't know. And I was just trying to get clarification on.
The one thing, the way the questions are worded is you would vote a not to exceed amount. You certainly don't have to issue that principal. Now, you know, when the time comes to issue the bonds, you should have those costs nailed down a lot tighter. And if it doesn't reach what you authorized, you don't issue that many bonds. And it was another thing I'll point out, before you can issue the bonds, if you're doing them on a tax exempt basis, under federal tax law, you have to certify that you have a reasonable expectation to spend that money in 3 years. So you got to kind of be ready to go before the bonds actually get issued.
The number that I remember hearing is that 3/8 of a cent would bond out about $100 million. Is that a ballpark of being
So
correct or
turn to
not?
Tyler, but that's what I remember. Is that about right?
Here.
Market on that
Hey,
day.
can you talk in the mic, Gordon? I'm sorry.
Market on that day would, of course, determine that. You're not going to issue them with just one-to-one coverage. You're going to issue them with maybe 1.2 coverage, something like that. So, you know, you'll pay them off faster that way.
Can you talk about what coverage is?
Coverage is, you know, if you've got $1,000 of debt service, you expect to collect $1,200 of taxes. So the way it's structured then is that extra $200 calls bonds on the furthest maturity with presumably the highest interest rate and pays them off first.
What would, if I ask the question, on a 30, this is a 30-year deal.
Right.
What are the cost of the bonds, I think is what I'm trying to ask. Do you have any idea what that cost is?
Well, you would probably, well, these are really underwriting
Sure.
questions, but a lot of times you might have a debt service reserve that you would fund too for shortfalls, depending on the coverage. If you think you've got good coverage, you're not going to need that debt service reserve. So, you know, if you went out with a ballot with 100 million of questions, but 70 million passed, then you've got big coverage and you probably wouldn't need that. You know, and they're just going to pay off that much faster to the extent you don't issue the full amount that you kind of thought you might up front. The other thing you can do, I mean, even though you had an election and maybe 5 questions passed, if 2 of them just aren't ripe, you don't issue those bonds. You can have another series of bonds in later years when those projects are ready. Now, you know, you're taking the chance, you authorize 25 million for this project, and by the time you get ready to do it, that's not what the construction costs are anymore.
Yeah.
And you're kind of stuck with what the voters approved.
Or what I heard you say is a financing, a 5-year financing, you're okay with something like that?
It's 7-year sales tax. Is Tyler Winningham in here?
Did you come up, Tyler?
Excuse me, what the mayor's talking about is doing those big projects also on a pay-as-you-go basis. He's proposing doing a 7-year sunset with 3/8, and as that 3/8 is collected, to try to get the amphitheater and the convention center done.
We do know that the cost of those things are gonna be exponentially higher in 7 years, don't we? Are we aware of that?
Assume so.
Costs are not going down on anything that I'm aware of.
Now, what you can do on the bond side, and I don't know what you can do a short-term investment for right now, you can earn up to the bond yield without having to give it back to the IRS. You know, if you got 4% bonds, if you can invest it at 4%, you can earn that. Anything over that, you rebate back to the feds, but you got to keep it invested short because you're going to spend it. So, you know, I don't know what you can invest that at right now. So it's not the full, you're not losing the full amount of the earnings of what you're paying on the bonds during construction. You get some earnings.
We're talking a little bit differently. That could bring 5-year financing. But again,
Part of it, for part of it.
but again, the 5 and 7 don't quite mesh, but you could do some 5-year financing. And you may not know this, I don't know, we may have to look at that, if these are eligible for 5-year financing, but that would be an option too.
They are, I mean, any capital improvement that has, you know, more than a few years' life is eligible. But you've got to pay that out of the general fund.
Yeah.
So in that case, you would probably still have to pass a tax that's going to the general fund. And those you can't roll them over. They have to be paid off in 5 years.
All right, let me ask this, and if I can ask it properly. Conway's current tax rate is 1.75%. Are there caps on how much we can charge for money that's not bonded? Or, you know what I'm asking? I think someone told me sometime you can only go up to X percent that's unencumbered. If you have a project that's bonded out with general fund money, you can go higher, or maybe I made that up. The way you're looking at me, tell me that's a no.
I'm not understanding.
You're telling me that's no.
No,
Okay.
I don't
Well-
really understand the question.
Well, let me ask this. Is there
Like a debt
Is there,
ratio?
is there any cap to how much the sales tax and BSC that a city charges?
Yes. I
Okay,
mean,
well, okay,
there's a difference of opinion on that. There's an attorney general's opinion, and I don't necessarily agree with it, that the way the statute reads is you can issue that at 1/8, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, or 1%. I read those as options. There's an attorney general's opinions that say you add all of that up in 2 different statutes. I don't know what that would be. That's a high number.
Okay.
You're not talking about anything that approaches the limit here.
okay. I just didn't want us to think if we're not gonna bond out some of this money and all 7/8 or whatever it is went to the general fund proper, it wasn't gonna go over some cap that was allowed. Okay.
Yeah, then the max sales tax rate, per the Attorney General opinion that he's quoting, is 2.625%.
Okay,
So that's
For each statute.
when you add up
Yeah,
all those,
yeah.
okay,
that's the maximum.
okay, all right, thank you.
So for the benefit of everybody here, how much does 1/8 sales tax generate a year?
That's a Tyler question.
I'm trying to see how we get to any of these significant projects.
Suggest you stay close, because I got a feeling this is gonna.
I sat a little too far back, didn't I? In our 25 budget, we have a 1/8 designated sales tax that's paying off the 2015 sales tax bonds, and we budgeted 2.75 million for that. So 1/8 will do 275, 1/4 will do 5.5, 3/8 would do 8.25, I believe, is how that math works.
So 7 years times 2 point, even if we were conservative, which wouldn't
And-
necessarily be a bad thing.
Right, yeah, and that would be, if you do that math, then you're projecting no growth in the sales tax, which is a very conservative way to do it, but presumably there would be growth in that revenue.
Yeah,
7
I'm
years
sorry,
on-
go ahead.
7 years on 3/8 would be 57.75 million. 57 million dollars, almost 58.
Any other questions, Mr. Welborn? Can you verify what the date of the scheduled November election is?
18th.
The 18th
Yeah.
is the regular
There's a
scheduled
Veterans
election.
Day is this Tuesday before, which pushes it. back
Typically,
to
it would have
July.
been November 11th
Yes.
because of the Veterans Day, the state moved it to the
Yep.
18th. Okay, thank you.
Anything when?
It's September 9th, 10th, right there. It's 9th to be safe.
Over and stay close if you would, unless
I will,
somebody
yeah,
else has
I'll be
got
here.
some questions.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you.
At this time, we will open up the floor to public comment. If you would, try to keep it to 3 minutes. And if something has already been said, try not to repeat it. When you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. The floor is open.
Larry Rathjen, 70 Kensington Drive. I always come to these things, if you don't come out with ideas, then just don't. If you're gonna complain, you better come with ideas on how to save money. Health insurance is one of the biggest expenses that we have for this city. And some of the bigger corporations, what they're doing is they're taking it in-house. And like Warren Buffett has done that with his corporations, and I was curious if we had ever thought about doing that or ever looked at that.
Yes, we have.
Okay, very good. Grants, have we researched or applied for any of these grants that we're trying to do for the boardwalk or the downtown convention center? I mean, I looked on my phone the other day, and I'm not a grant expert, but there's a bunch of them out there. I just don't know how to write them. And maybe the city should do that. The next two are a little tricky is the right word, and you probably need Mr. Finkenbeiner to help you with this. But right now we have what we use the Little Rock Metro Authority to get all our money from. Okay, and that's where Tab Townsville sits, and we get our money, and the mayors from other cities tell us how we can spend our money. We could with the mayor, with the governor's permission, create our own authority. And that would mean we would go directly to the same people that they get and get the money, and you could have those jobs for grant writers, full-time grant writers, and they would be here in Conway. So instead of paying that money down to the Little Rock Authority, we could do that ourselves. Another one that would be touchy and tricky would be merging the city of Conway and Conway Corporation. Because again, the main thing is merging departments and reducing overhead. And there is a state law that you can't do that, but I think you could get a waiver for doing that, and that would eliminate a lot of the departments. You wouldn't need 2 HR departments, you wouldn't need 2 IT departments, you wouldn't need 2 lawyer departments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So those are things that maybe we could do, and I honestly believe that they could pay for a good portion of this. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
Did it in under 3 minutes.
Floor is open. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Cindy Webb. I live at 6 Rosewood Drive here in Conway. And I know that, when Mayor Castleberry mentioned that $95,000 deficit, that kind of makes, I would lose sleep too. I'd probably be sick at my stomach all the time. But anyway, point being, when I was researching just what other cities do, I came across a great quote that y'all have probably heard a million times, but it's from a fellow Arkansan. And it is this: when government officials use taxpayer money to bet on economic development projects, it is the taxpayers who carry that risk. Burdening Arkansas taxpayers with undue risk is poor policy. That's from a research associate named Jacob Bundrick from the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. My main question is, what is the rush of all this? Is there a certain reason that we have to rush to do this and vote on this in November? I mean, because as the mayor stated, we don't, and I know Theo stated it too, at the last meeting, we're listening to plans that if a bank were listening to some of these plans, let's say you got Greg Sanson at Centennial Bank, he'd say no, and you would know in 2 seconds you're not going to get approved. I know this is a different situation, but not really. If we don't even know where we're going to place some of these projects, it's way too early to be talking about it and be trying to put it on a ballot for 2 months from now. That's my opinion. And another thing, how many small businesses and citizens in our community of Conway, Arkansas, even know that this is a possibility of being on the ballot in November? Because it's not a general election. It sort of is a special election if you think about it, because it is not a midterm election. It's not an election that people are going to get out and take time out of their day, especially if they don't know about it. And you know what happens to special elections, they pass. Is this something that you want? Because a lot of you have been on the council for a long time, and I miss y'all so much. I cannot express how much I miss you. And Andy Hawkins is looking at me like, I know you don't miss me. But I do. I even miss you. I know you don't. I know, but I miss you.
I've got something for you, by the way.
Well, I love it.
Got a placard for you. It was out here in this
Oh,
reception area.
well, thank you. Well, that's so sweet. Okay, so I'm sorry. I get off track.
Cindy, your time's running.
I was going to mention that. I'll give you, since Andy
I
interrupted, you
only
keep
have
going.
like one more thing, and that's it. And that is this: with the state of our nation right now, and we all know what I mean. Cities like Cincinnati, Ohio. I didn't know they were a scary city, but they are. I really want our first responders taken care of. I really want our first responders, fire and Conway PD, to be taken care of so that they don't leave us. Okay. Thank y'all so very much for your.
Thank you, Cindy.
patience.
Thank you, Cindy.
Anyone else like to speak? The floor is open. Hey.
Caitlin Bailey, owner of Cross Creek Sandwich Shop, 5721 West Roderwise is my address. Every time I've gotten up here, I have told you some things, and I thought I would exercise the opportunity to ask a question this time, or a couple questions. I know that you guys have seen the likes of social media, and there's just nothing quite like it in this day and age, but it's pretty disgusting, and it gets really overwhelming, and it gets people really fired up, and everybody likes to believe what they see on social media as if it was absolute fact without fact checking. And a lot of the issue that I think we're facing right now with this circumstance on the table is that we have a population of people who don't even know how to fact check. So I want to ask a couple of questions. If I was a concerned citizen who is sitting behind my keyboard and I was very apt and ready to post what I think should be done, where would you tell me to go to fact check these things that are being fired out as if they are facts? What are the websites? What are the tools that a citizen just like myself should do to get the right information so they can speak educated rather than just speak what their heart is telling them? Where should I tell them to go? Where should you tell them to go? Where do we send them?
Let's narrow it down because there's a couple things out there that's really hot right now.
Yeah.
Are we talking
This
Are we
sales
talking
tax
public safety or are we
election-
talking sales tax?
This sales tax
Okay.
election.
I would love to answer that one.
Yeah.
And y'all correct me if I'm wrong. What are you laughing at me for, Sheila? Yeah. So I think there's some feeling that, and some of what you see on social media is that people are expecting us to say, let's do this all, let's do it right now. That is not my intent. And I can't
Sure.
tell you the mayor has made his clear. I can't speak for everyone else's intent, but when the mayor and I were talking about this some months ago, I said, I don't care if the outcome is nothing. We as elected officials need to have the conversation.
Sure.
So right now,
this is, I would liken this to, we're not even dating yet, right? Like, we haven't even decided what we're going to look at potentially pursuing. We still have to narrow that down. And so
Yeah.
right now, the best course of information that I'll give people about this would be the meetings where we've discussed it publicly, because I can tell you, I've not been in a single meeting that wasn't a public meeting here discussing these things,
Yeah.
other than sitting down and talking with citizens like yourself about it. And so the best info about sales tax specifically right now, I would say, is in the 3 public meetings we've had. Would you guys agree with that?
So come to the public meetings, rewatch them if you missed
Yeah.
them,
Facebook
reach
and
out to
YouTube.
your city councilman. Yeah? Okay, here's another question that I have. I want to ask, and I love for things to have a number that you can put on it, because I feel like it helps people to relate to it, okay? So I have heard a lot of talk about how if we went forward with this, that people are going to feel it. It's going to hurt their pocketbooks. Mayor, you said that your mom and your niece would feel this. So my question is this: at what point do you guys as a council say that something crosses the threshold of feeling and not feeling? And this is what I mean by that. I've run the numbers and I've relied on the chamber's numbers and fact checked theirs. But 2 examples: if I bought a chicken salad sandwich at my establishment today versus buying it 1 year from now with this new initiative, it would be 8 cents more. That's 8 pennies more. I pass those on the road, walk into my shop every morning. My weekly grocery budget, the numbers there are $283 weekly on average right now versus $285 on average a year from now. That's $1.90. So my question is this: at what point do we quantify as a council what dollar amount crosses over a person feeling it versus not feeling it? Because to me, and I understand that I'm not everybody, but if I'm choosing to go out to eat and I can't afford the 9 cents more on a chicken salad sandwich, I'm feeling like that isn't feeling it. But if it was going to be $4 more for a sandwich, or even $2 more, I might say that's feeling it. So I'm asking you guys, where do we draw that line? Is it a percentage? Is it a dollar? Where do we say we deem this as feeling it as a city and this is not feeling it? I think that will help everyone to feel more confident about what we're saying is an impact to their pocketbook and is not.
Well, I'll answer you from a personal standpoint.
Yeah.
It's when my mom's at the store and she's got green beans and she looks at the price of every one till she gets to one she thinks fits within her budget. And she does that. She looks at every price and she goes with the cheapest every time, because every cent matters to her. Now, am I taking this probably a little bit more personal than everybody else? Yeah, because I'm a guy that takes her shopping and I see what she has to go through.
Sure.
So that's my
I
opinion on
do hear that. And I guess my question would be, do you go as far as to take her to, say, Little Rock because their sales tax rate is cheaper, to buy groceries there because it's cheaper? Or do we still do it in Conway? Like, do we spend our money where the sales tax is cheaper or where the price tag is cheaper? Because I feel like that does have a bearing on this. If that matters that much, then we would all be taking our dollars and going to a whole nother city where a sales tax rate is cheaper, I would think. Or that logic would make sense if that's how logical this is.
According to the chamber's information, that's where it is. It's cheapest here in Conway right now.
The sales tax rate, you're saying, they're saying the sales tax
We're
rate is cheaper
17th
here?
We're 17th in the state out of 19 places. We are the 3rd cheapest in the state of Arkansas.
Amy, is that right? Is it cheaper sales tax rate in Little Rock than it is here?
Of the 20 largest cities, that's not.
Caitlin, Miss Bailey.
Caitlin is fine.
We've gone over the 3 minutes, but we have answered
but I-
questions
I-
up
yeah,
here.
I-
So I just wanted everyone
No,
to be aware.
I think
Because I did stop Ms. Webb.
she's brought up a really valid point, and one that I kind of asked at the last meeting, which is, what is the impact on a typical family for 1/8 cent? And so I took it a step further, and I, with the help of our local United Way, received Alice budgets, and I don't know how many people are familiar with Alice, asset limited, income constrained, employed families.
Mhm.
And so there some standard budgets for Faulkner County, so not, all over the state, and really trying to look at what kind of annual impact a 1/8 would have for each of those families. And so I'm working on that.
Okay.
And because I think you raise a really valid point. Our job is to kind of gather this information and find that balance.
Sure.
If it's going to be $1,000 more for a family who's already income constrained, that's kind of
That's a big deal.
pushing my pressure point,
Right.
And so I think that's why the council, and I appreciate what Drew said too, is that we push for this public conversation.
Yes.
Not for any decision, but for us to have this discussion in front of our citizens and our community.
Right.
And I think that's more important than anything else we do.
And I think it's wonderful that you do it. I wish everyone would attend. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin.
If I could, no,
How's
you're
your
fine.
husband?
He's fine. I could say a lot of things, but he's fine.
Another answer to her first question, where to find information, and this is more general, on the city's website is the open checkbook that shows every dollar that's spent. So anybody that wants to see where every dollar goes can go do it, searchable by street projects or anything else you can find out there. So that's a place to look for how the money's being spent.
Well, and I think it's been brought up here before too. There's also audited financial statements out there through 2020. Tyler's at 2024, 5. We haven't got. Okay. I mean, we're always a year behind with the audited.
And another point to that, as far as contacting your representatives, I'm not going to reply to a Facebook post, but you can email me, you can call me. We even got an old-fashioned letter today.
We
Email me.
did.
We mail me. Said this is about public safety, actually. So anyway, get a hold of us directly. And, in the past, with all the stuff that's going on, I've literally gotten less than 10 emails in the last 2 months on anything. So I don't know if that tells people don't care. They just want to vent on social media. I don't know. I don't know what that means, but I've not been directly contacted by a lot of people. Maybe I will tonight after that, but good. Contact me. Let me know. We'll
Thank you, Mr.
talk.
Graham.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
I know it's about finance, but to me, the bigger picture is saying where the money is going and how much we need. We hadn't nailed that down. And that's what my concern is, writing a blank check and we don't know where it's going. And I've talked to people, just regular people, and that's what they're saying. That's the way they start. Do you have, where are you going to put this? Do you have,
I
do you
don't
have
disagree.
an idea of where it's going? And that's my concern.
I don't disagree at all.
Mr. Jones, that kind of, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. That speaks to what I was mentioning earlier of I think we have to narrow it down before we can do that. And that's what I'm saying. Am I in favor of pursuing with all this? Absolutely not. I doubt anyone here is. But let's pick what we're going to focus on to then be able to look at those real numbers. Is my hope. That's fair.
Oh. I was gonna,
It is.
I was gonna ask for something else, but go ahead. I can write down my thing.
You're the decision maker.
Oh, you go right ahead.
Corey Parks, 532 Faulkner Street. It's not lost on me that the privilege that I have of working in the organization that I do, that what I say is reflective of the organization, despite it maybe being my personal opinion or not. So with that, I'm going to ask just a question, and Gordon's probably not going to like that I'm asking this question, but it's coming on the backs of what Theo suggested, which is, Gordon, is it fair to ask or have some flexibility as you go into writing these initiatives, so that way you're not boxed in to something and it comes to a situation where you think you've identified a site, it works perfectly, but then for whatever reason the property sells or there's issues with it that are beyond understanding. So is there not value in having flexibility in the site? And I'm hopefully, by addressing it to you, hopefully I've not violated parliamentary procedure, but I do think that's a question worth asking if an attorney is willing to answer that question, because I think that it's nuanced. But
Perfectly valid question, and it is flexibility versus, letting the voters know exactly what's going to happen. But if you put an address on there, that's what you're stuck with. And if it doesn't work out, you're not going to issue those bonds and build it somewhere else. So, there's a trade-off. I have seen it on a ballot where city did not know exactly where a parking deck was going to go, but they put a boundary, where it had to go within, with streets, they surrounded, it had to go within that area. So, that's kind of a middle ground.
Well, I wasn't narrowing it down to a location, and I understand people gonna vote for it, but they want a general idea. You don't have to tell me it's gonna be 1111 Main, but what is the general idea? What is the plan? You saying we thinking about, we hadn't even heard for any location. We were thinking about we just put it on here and the citizen will vote for it. Give me an idea, give the citizens an idea. You don't have to tell me it's gonna be on the west side, east side of town, but give me some kind of general idea. I mean, we were told, and I remember, I got a pretty good memory, that you can put it on the ballot and it can be on the ballot in a general statement like that. But the people I've talked to say, yeah, you can put it on there, but we'd like to know about what it's going. Not, you don't have to give me an address, but give me a general idea of what it is. I know the legal thing you're saying, but that's not, everybody don't want to just do it because it's legally right to put it on the ballot like that. They want a reason that it's on the ballot. That's what I've been hearing, and that's
Sure,
my
that's
opinion.
just the trade-off,
Yeah.
specificity versus flexibility. That's what you've got to.
I'm not saying like
Yeah.
no address in, but give us an idea. And that's my 2 minutes.
Is anyone else? The floor is open.
Good.
We got somebody coming up.
How y'all doing?
Good, man.
Charles Frost, 10 Pin Oak. Not normally a person that speaks in front of a lot of people unless you're like behind a restaurant or getting ready for an event, so bear with me here. But just kind of wanted to speak and just say that, personally and professionally, that hearing both sides and hearing all the things I've heard today, there's a thing that speaks to my heart. Is just about the city of Conway and where we're going. I wasn't born here. I came here. Followed a girl here. It didn't work out. Met my wife. That was awesome. College. But I stayed here. And I stayed here because of what Conway could be and what Conway was becoming. And that was motivation, exciting for me. I want to start a family here because of Conway could be and where Conway is going. And I watched my friends all go to Northwest Arkansas and Dallas, and everybody's going somewhere else because they're doing all these cool things and they got things happening. And I'm like, well, Conway's going to do it. Conway's going to do it. Like, we're on path for that. I started a whole business. And if you go to our Facebook page, you'll see quite a bit, like bringing more things to do to Conway, because that's what I heard my peers saying, oh, well, there's just nothing to do. And if paying 8 cents more for a sandwich allows me to have a parking garage downtown, allows me to have a farmer's market, allows me to have auditorium instead of going to the amphitheater, allows me to stay in Conway for the Lion King live action or whatever it is. If 8 cents more per sandwich allows that for me, my family, my peers, my friends to want to stay and play in Conway, I would have to say that that's worth it to me. And I think it's worth it to at least put it on the ballot to let other people make that decision for themselves if it's worth it to them. That's simple. Thank you.
Ross, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Hi, Jenny McNulty, 812 Davis. I made some notes so I wouldn't go too long, hopefully. I have to admit, I don't always love the idea of more taxes. However, a couple of weeks ago, I was fortunate to be at the Downtown Partnership meeting where Caitlin Bailey and Grace Rains took the time to present extensive information, including numbers and percentages, and helped me to understand more about this. I would encourage those of you who have not seen that information to reach out and ask for that information. It's easy to hear tax increase and assume it will be a gigantic increase in my bottom line. However, when looking at it, it's a very, very minimal increase for me, a middle-income single parent, just dollars a month. But it would be a major increase in opportunity for this city, which also means an increase in opportunity for me and my family. I will be the first to say I am not in favor of every decision city government makes. I don't agree with how all the money is spent. However, I do know that our city government, our Chamber of Commerce, and our Downtown Partnership all want the same thing, for this city to thrive. And I want that same thing. which is why I would like to speak in favor of putting this tax on the ballot with the understanding that if it were to pass, we would get assets like the Music Pavilion, the Downtown Theater, the Farmers Market Pavilion. If those things are going to happen, which I know is kind of still in flex, I would very much be in favor of this. I have heard for 2 decades that this city wants to be a destination for arts and culture, and I'm still waiting for that to become a priority in action rather than in word alone. This bond could be action in that direction. I once planned an entire week's vacation to Savannah because I wanted to see Elton John at a venue. I've driven to Memphis or Dallas or New York, Northwest Arkansas more times than I can count just to see a performer, a dance performance, to hear a speaker. And while I was there, I enjoyed other aspects of that city, but what brought me there was the entertainment, the culture, the arts. And when I was there, I stayed in their hotels, their Airbnbs, I shopped in their local stores, and I ate in their restaurants. I drive to Little Rock just for the farmers market, and again, I stay and shop and eat. These things don't just mean visitors to our area, it means income for local businesses, which also means jobs. It also means making Conway a place where more people want to live. I've heard some people complaining about this idea because they think money should be going to fix the pothole in front of your house or to fix this road or any other myriad of singularly focused issues. The thing is, a city is like a grocery store. It is designed to meet a lot of needs for a lot of different people. And just like a grocery store has a meat section and a frozen food section and a dairy, a city has a budget for emergency services, for road work, for parks and recreation, and for education, because our city has a lot of people with a lot of needs and wants. So for someone to oppose this tax simply because they think more money should be spent on something else, it's like somebody walking into Kroger because they want to buy chicken and getting mad because there also happens to be lettuce available too. And just like I will drive further to the Kroger in the middle of town to get more options, people will drive to a city where there are more opportunities available. All of this to say, if this increase includes the building of these types of infrastructure for our community, for arts and culture and entertainment, I am very much in favor of it. At the very minimum, I believe this is a conversation that needs to continue to be at the forefront. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm back. Grace Rain, 34,000 Oak Circle. So tonight I have comments and a question. I didn't bring y'all data, so I brought a question this time. I'm shaking it up, so get excited. All right. So I've had the opportunity to watch virtually or attend many of these meetings, virtually more often because I have 2 little ones. And I've seen a lot of you guys making a lot of tough decisions, and I can see it on your faces when you make them about where you're going to spend the funds of the city. You're limited with the funding available. It's been heated recently about where you spend funds. And so from my understanding about how city funding works, and correct me if I'm wrong, primarily cities can bring funding in 2 ways, right? We've got property taxes and we've got sales taxes. And then, there's in my business what we called side hustles that the city can do, like Mr. Grimes mentioned the other day about, maybe running an ambulance service. There's some little things that you guys can do to bring in money, but traditionally speaking, we're talking property taxes, sales taxes. For those, you can just straight up increase the tax, right? We can just vote and straight up increase the tax, and that money can go into a general fund that can fund critical services, salaries, critical infrastructure, fighting fire apparatus, all that. The problem with that method is that if we just straight up increase and it goes in the general fund for you guys to use it for whatever the city needs, then that means that's permanent, right? So if we just straight up increase it, it's permanent forever, and because we're budgeting based on that tax. And so I don't think anybody would be in favor of that. It's a Band-Aid for a problem that we have. The other option is to bring in more tax revenue. So more taxes, more taxable things that are happening in the city. So for property taxes, that's more taxable property in the city, or like the data center project that's coming down the pike, right? So we're hopefully going to see investment there. They're increasing the property value. And so that property will now bring in more property taxes. So that is one way. But that's something that it's not something that we can increase significantly, right? Like property taxes overall, like not something we can significantly increase. Similarly, on the sales tax side, if we can figure out a way to increase sales tax dollars coming into our city, then you can increase the money coming to the city for use in perpetuity without us having to increase taxes forever. That's what this potential initiative would provide, the opportunity to increase sales tax revenue without permanently increasing sales taxes. However, these types of initiatives take time to start generating additional taxes, right? So if we push this off and push this off and push this off, that no longer becomes a viable way for us to increase the sales tax or increase the taxes and the money that you guys have to spend on things like critical infrastructure and things like that, if we push it off overall. We know that sales taxes are trending down this year and that the city budgeted a 3% increase for that, and we haven't seen a 3% increase for sales taxes. So as you guys are making hard decisions, you're gonna have to make harder and harder decisions on where that money's spent, because that money's not just coming in like we thought it would be. And so that means we need more money to fund the city's needs, and we need a solution for that problem. You guys have more money this year to spend than you anticipated, and you have more people asking you for money already. And we don't have a long-term solution, and we can't wait for a long-term solution for that. We're losing the forest for the trees here. People are coming up with a lot of different nitpicky reasons why you guys shouldn't look at this, and why things might not work. And instead of us taking a leader's approach and saying, we're gonna look at this and we're gonna solve those problems, and we're gonna look at a problem that Conway has, which is not enough money coming in to solve the problems that we have going on. Instead, we're letting all of those naysayers bring up issues, and instead of taking an initiative and saying, we're gonna solve those problems, we're sitting back and saying those problems are the trees and we can't see the forest. And so we have an opportunity to head this off before it really becomes a problem for the city, before sales tax trends downward in a way that we can't come back from, and we have to look at a permanent increase in taxes, because that's what will happen eventually. So my question for you guys is, if we choose not to go down this path, not to be innovative and not solve the problems and objectives being brought up against this initiative, then what is this council's plan to combat lower sales tax revenue and increase needs and cost in the budget? It's not rhetorical.
It'll be to cut services.
Cut
I
services.
can tell you what it's gonna be.
Okay.
It's gonna
So we'd
be
have to cut services.
If we're gonna have to cut services, we're gonna have to cut salaries.
Cut services and salaries. That seems to go over well.
That's our biggest, that's absolutely our biggest line items.
Yep.
are-
So if
are
we
salaries.
don't figure out how to get it up to budget, which right now we're not even at budget for what sales tax revenues brought in, we'll cut
Cam, have we
services.
heard this month, Mr. Winningham?
We were up 6.7 the previous month and 4.7 the month before that. So at this time, we are no longer in the red. We're flat, but we're,
But not at the
We're
3% budgeted rate.
pardon me?
But not at the 3% that was budgeted. We're not at budget. We're at even for what we saw last year,
Yeah.
but not at budget of what was
That's
budgeted.
correct.
Yeah. Okay. So the only other comment that I'll make is what was recommended today on the table as a potential is a 3/8 increase for 7 years. That is the same increase that is being recommended for the larger proposal that we could do more with, bring in more sales tax revenue, and have the same effect on pocketbooks. So using the excuse that sales tax increases would have an impact and be felt by people in this community because it's a 3/8 increase, why would we tolerate that for 7 years, but we wouldn't tolerate it for longer to see a greater impact to solve the problems in the city? Thank you.
That was a proposal I tossed out. It will be up to the council if they choose to go permanent, if they choose to go 7 years. I think proposals are good to look at. Floor is still open.
Mr. Mayor, I own 4 small businesses, and this really isn't about 8 cents on a can of green beans. Small businesses are the ones that hire people for the jobs. Okay? Give you an example, an in-frame on a semi-truck, that's $30,000. I wanted to hire a guy here in Conway to do that job. But the state of Missouri has a tax exempt because of the federal interstate commerce clause where I don't have to pay that sales tax. So my truck got overhauled up in Missouri. You're going to be looking at a lot of these businesses that are going to be shipping in their packages through Amazon and these other places outside of the city of Conway because the margins are so tight. It's not that people don't want this. It's just that business is tight. We're in a bad spot in our country right now. $37 trillion. And maybe we start with cutting services of defunding the city council. It should be a volunteer position. I mean, I mean, it's tough choices, but I think it's not 8 cents on a can of green beans. It's the big businesses that are not going to be able to create the jobs. And thank you again.
Floor is still open. 5, 4.
Jamie Gates, Conway Chamber. Heard a lot from me clearly the last couple of months, and
Wasn't gonna necessarily speak in light of the proposals and conversation needs to take place, but I do think because people are going to these meetings for information, I did want to recap quickly kind of where we stood. I did want to, I'm not picking on you, I even wrote that I agree with Larry on bring solutions when there's a problem, but that'd be a $10 can of green beans. So I just want to point that out. You can beat that price if it's 8 cents.
Hey, Jamie, are you here as a speaker while the floor is open? Or are you ready to do your part because I hadn't closed the floor yet?
Oh, I just came for public comment tonight.
Okay.
I don't have a presentation
Okay.
or anything.
All right.
So everybody can exhale. In a recap, the reason we got here was more than 2,000 residents through the citizen survey and Conway 2035 identified a deficiency in arts, culture, and entertainment options as their lowest area of satisfaction. That was in the city survey. On the 2035, it's like, what should most be included in the strategic plan? Same question, asked different ways, same result. It was arts, culture, and entertainment. So that's where we started on looking at these projects. And then the plan went on to pick some of the projects that are in front of you right now, identify them as opportunities. In preparing for this, we found out two things were going on. One, we're flat on sales tax. And that's new for us, but I think we've described at length all of the dynamics that are at work. It is migration to online, as Mr. Ratchin pointed out. It's also changing footprints for big box retail in places like Searcy and Russellville where they were squarely within our trade area. Now they have other options. That's going to continue to happen. The other thing that startled us is when we did our strategic plan for economic development with EY, we looked at 11 cities around the country. They were peer cities. They were suburbs in MSAs with a higher education presence. So these were peer on peer as chosen by the people who do economic development. Out of those 11 cities, we were 9th on the ability to retain our bachelor's degree holding workforce. And when you go back, that study happened last year, when you go back to the surveys before as to where we're deficient, you can start to connect all of those dots. So that's why we really kind of start zeroing in. Hey, maybe we're onto a proposal here. Then we start looking at the numbers. We look at the top 20 largest cities in the state, and we look at them at sales tax rate and property tax. For sales tax, we're 18th. For property tax, we're 17th. That means we're capacity. I looked at June collections for those top 20 cities, and I particularly looked at the 8 who charge the 3 cents, which is kind of what we looked at. It's the median. It's the most popular rate among the 20 cities. On average, in June, they collected $75 per person to take care of their folks. Conway collected 43. If Conway raised its sales tax by a third, we'd be up to 57. Wouldn't even be close to average. You look at the Northwest Arkansas cities, your Bentonville, Rogers, they're in the 90s. And that is because of the dynamism of their economy. It's because people from a big circle are going there to spend for events. It's not the wealthy people spending. There's caps on sales tax. There's caps on things that can be purchased. And a lot of that spending takes place for other folks. That economy is smaller than Central Arkansas's economy. They have more because they tax more. They collect more. With regard to the amphitheater and convention center, and just so we understand the nature of the bonded debt versus pay-as-you-go. Bonded debt, the current rate, our best guess for when these bonds were issued would be about 4.25%. When you talk to the types of general contractors who would build these, they say plan for conservatively 5 to 6% annual inflation. You are going to pay more waiting when you factor in the increased cost of construction, and you are not going to have the money to build it for many, many years, if ever. If you're chasing 6%, if you're chasing a big number with a small number and it's increasing at 5 to 6%, you won't get there. And I understand and heard that there would presumably be growth in that $7.5 million per year. What is driving that growth? We know what's tugging the other direction. What's driving it? What's compelling someone to come and spend here rather than to buy on their phone or buy closer to their house? So take away the growth. And if you can presume growth, you need to presume decline. And so I think that that's,
what is at odds with where we're trying to go. The other thing we're trading is, for 5 years, the four projects that were outlined where we had an estimation on visitor and cost, that totals, it's 2 million visitors, $200 million in direct spending. So that's just a recap of how we got here, where we could go. We may choose not to. I get it. But I did want to have it out there that here's what our peers are charging. Here's what our peers are doing. Here's what we're charging. And here's what we're doing. And that's where we stand in 2025.
Anyone else?
Mark Elsinger, 2905 Antelope. I swore I wasn't going to do this, but I can't get no choice. Mr. Gates presented here a while back all his statistics and everything like that, and how we need to do all this stuff because of this survey that they had. I never seen the survey. I don't know anybody I've talked to have never seen the survey, so I don't know who they asked. And it's just like any other poll, depending on what kind of answer you want, depends on who you ask. You can get whatever answer you want to. If I remember right, or correct me if I'm wrong, supposedly the last 2 years, we're the fastest growing city in the state. Is that correct?
Correct.
Apparently, everybody's moving here, or we're growing the fastest in the state, and we don't have all this stuff that we're talking about here. So all this arts and entertainment, which I don't have anything wrong with. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but we haven't taken care of our basics. And y'all know that. That's why we're here talking about it now, because the basics hadn't been taken care of. So, and to use his verbiage that he used as the first meeting, which I didn't care for, but if you don't like it, move. I mean, that's out of his own words. So it's not making any sense here from a logical standpoint. Where people are complaining about we don't have anything here, so we would need to raise a sales tax so we can get all this stuff to get people to come here, but yet we're the fastest growing city in the state. The two of them don't gee and haw very well, in my opinion. I know you are discussing this. You're right, Drew. I know you're discussing it. I know it's not settled. I think it might be settled in some form or whatever. But as far as hurrying and rushing to get this thing done by end of August, 1st of September, or 8th of September, whatever he said, for a November election, and then we have to pay for that election, another 10, 20,000 people, $1,000 to pay for that election, when if you wait till March primary, we don't have to pay any of it if you want to put it off to that. The other thing is every time the city wants some big special project, and believe me, I know, I've been with the city for a long time, we have a special election. That's the only way you get it passed. You don't do it in general elections because people are going to vote it down. I keep reading in the paper, and Colton, you're doing a wonderful job as far as a reporter, but I keep hearing about this activity center or civic, whatever it's called out there, overwhelmingly approved by the voters. There were 2,800 voters that showed up for that election out of 37,000 registered voters. And those figures have come from the clerk's office. So that's not a general, the majority of the population wanted something like this or that, either one. So the logic is not playing out here. We're either the fastest growing city and everybody's coming here, or nobody wants to come here because there's nothing to do. That doesn't gee and haw. So y'all do what you're going to do, but I just had to throw that out there because some of these comments are not from a logical standpoint, more of an emotional thing. And I'm more of nuts and bolts and paying for the stuff that we need and not stuff that we want. Thank you very much for your time.
He gets to talk twice, and I'm just going to speak to the issues talking about what I said and didn't say, and that's a handy thing about videos. You could go back, I encourage you to go back and watch them. With regard to the survey, you could throw out the 2035 survey that had 1,800 people. It was on every news outlet ad nauseum. We have email addresses. You had another 500 people show up to participate in the work itself. But you don't have to believe it, but if you can dispute city survey, and maybe y'all's was fake as well. We're not the fastest growing city. Those 2 years, we're the fastest growing city. Finger marks doesn't do anything. The thing about living here versus shopping here has also been described ad nauseum. It's the trade area is not the boundary in which we live. Conway residents pay less than half of the city sales tax. It's the other half that is lagging. So just want to clear that up. And regarding my verbiage, you could go back and watch and see if I said that you need to move if you don't like it here. I think what I said was I would hope that everybody could live somewhere that they love. I'm not going to run from that. You should live somewhere that you love. And then finally, you know, the city does have a history of getting creative and investing in retail developments in order to grow its sales tax revenue. There's been some large shopping centers in our past where we worked with the developer to facilitate a land sale so we could have that shopping center, so we could grow our sales tax base.
Thank you, Mr. Gates. Floor is still open.
Good evening. I'm Ken Ashley Pauley. I think I know probably or have been involved with each one of you guys. I came in, I wrote some things down, and then you hear all this stuff. And I'm not a computer guy, I'm not a tech guy, so I write on a piece of paper. So I'm just going to make a couple comments. First, I want to tell you guys thank you. Thank each one of you for coming up here, whether it's been 30 years or a couple of months. Because you put yourselves out there like the guy in the arena. You get the dust, you get the blood. There's so many times I ask or I encourage people, why don't you run for something? I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. But when things go south, where do they go? To the guy in the arena. So thank you guys. However it all works out. The other thing is really, this is all in my mind about all you. Because these are the people that we want to represent, right? But ultimately, you got to make the choice. Not everybody can afford a $10 chicken salad sandwich or a great cookie downtown. So what do? They don't go get them. They become part of the people that aren't going to be involved. Without naysayers, you don't get yaysayers, okay? You got to have a positive. You got to have a negative. These are all things that I just came up with, you know, sitting here listening to all of this. I do agree first responders ought to be really, really high on this list. And until your name's directly tied to the need or the benefit of having a first responder, whether it's too late or not, they don't have the value with a lot of folks. The chicken salad sandwich does. But I promise you, don't give up on the first responders, guys. We'll get there, okay? It'll work out. So thank you again for that. When we're rushed, mistakes get made. Okay, well, people have gotten up here and we're talking about why we got to rush, why do we got to rush, why do we got to rush? There's reasons, there's discussions. But when you rush, things do kind of maybe get caught up. Are we the fastest growing in the state? Could be. Are we the safest? No, we're not. So I just want to thank you guys again for what you do. It's not an easy thing, and I applaud you guys. But I encourage all of us, unless we're going to get up here and be pugilistic all the time, which if I'm right, and I'm not always right, that's a combative word. And you guys get the hell beat out of you all the time. And it's got to get tiring. Because what you're hearing in here is getting heard out there a lot. So thank you again. And I want to leave with this. We are imperfect human beings in an imperfect world. Let's just try to do better and not be so perfect. Thank you for your time. And again, God bless you.
Thank you, Ken. We'll take one, two more.
Mr. Mayor and Caitlin, I might be stopping you. I'm not really interested in hearing anybody argue with anybody else in the crowd at this point. I think we need to hear original thoughts, and I think we need to stop refuting and defending what the other side have said. I believe that deliberation is for
That's fair.
us to do.
That's
So-
fair. No, thank you, Drew. Yes, come on up.
Caitlin Bailey again, 5721 West Road Rise. I have one question that I wrote down and I meant to ask. I hear this a lot in the conversation about this initiative that I've heard it said this way: I will vote no if it means first responder, firemen specifically, pay does not go up. So I'm asking this question from an uneducated standpoint. I'm asking to be educated. Would an initiative like this be able to fund salaries of city employees, or would funding of city employee salaries come from the general fund? Like, which one would it be able to come from?
Okay, it will be for equipment, which will take some of the load off of the general fund. We cannot lay a specific anything down that says this will be used for salaries, because if we have an economic turn down and we have promised to use that and we can't, we've already lost one lawsuit that cost us $1 million on that.
Right.
Okay, what? I'm sorry, we settled for $1 million.
So making sure that I'm hearing you correctly, whenever I am seeing people say on Facebook or having conversations with people and they're saying, I'm going to vote no to that unless they promise that it's going to pay for salaries of firemen to go up, that's not even a legitimate argument to have, because this initiative would not be able to increase the salaries anyway. This public safety capital would only be able to be used for capital expenditures, and the funding of their salaries going up would come from the general fund, not from this anyway. Am I correct?
That's correct, if it were available in the general fund.
Okay, I think that's really wise information.
Well, let me put it another way,
Yes, sir.
and this, I'm just trying to state it factual. As the mayor said, if whatever percentage we do, eighth, a quarter, whatever that generates for fire and police capital, it would-
Public safety.
public safety
Broader,
capital,
yeah.
public safety capital, that money would go in the general fund, and if from the general fund, that new money would pay for public safety capital. Thus, there would be money in the general fund that used to pay for fire capital that is no longer being paid for fire capital. So that money is free for other things. Now, we cannot commit what those other things would be, but there will be money there for other things. But what I can commit to is if this tax doesn't pass, and there's not new money for fire capital, the current money for fire capital is still in there for fire capital.
There's not going to be money left over for
That's right.
salaries if this doesn't pass.
That's right. That's correct.
And the last thing that I wanted to say is I've led my business by this quote, and I believe in it really firmly. All of our Cross Creek t-shirts say this, but it says, a society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they know they will never sit in. And I'm going to say it one more time. A society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they know that they will never sit in. In case that isn't clear for anyone, that means the work that you guys are doing today for us is going to benefit my children. And the work that you're doing today is going to benefit my children's children. And so we do have to constantly look at the future, and we have to constantly look at the actions that we take as people today, and just know that it's not for today only. It is to benefit the generations to come and the Conway that we all love and what it's going to look like 35 and 100 years from now. Truly, truly, thank you guys. I appreciate you answering questions. I think that it's good to ask them and be educated citizens rather than just assuming we know all the things that we think we know. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Can I make one comment?
Yes, sir.
It's going to be real short. It's about Facebook. I worked in the court system for 12 years, and I worked for this judge, and this is a statement that we need to take to heart. You can't believe what you see on Facebook. And don't put any prudence in that, because you can put anything on Facebook. And he used to tell people when they came up there for a defense, he'd always say, you know it's true because it's on Facebook. So get some facts before you start going with what people put on Facebook, please. And I'm through.
Mr. Hawks.
Mr. Hawks.
And this may be directed to Tyler. Is there any way that we could get some projected revenues on the 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, just different variations of what we're going to be looking at, and how much that could free up on the capital side for our first responders? And then there we could consider maybe what that could look like in the future?
I think the 1/8 Tyler just mentioned was 2.75 million.
All right, that was a year,
That was,
and so,
so if we did 6/8, it would be 6 times that.
okay. But as far as comparing that against their budget and then what we could potentially, I mean, I could probably find those line items, but I don't know if you could find them quicker than I could, so.
Yeah, I don't have that information ready for you yet. I could put it together, but, and these numbers may have been thrown out while I was trying to sign in here, but, if we had a 1/4 cent available for the public safety capital, which has been discussed, that would generate 27.5 million over 5 years. The 1/8 cent for streets has been proposed.
I believe that's a high number. If an eighth is 275.
He said 1/4 cent.
Quarter.
He said
Quarter.
quarter for
cent
5
would be
years.
5.5, and 5 years of that would be.
27.5.
I'm sorry, I stand corrected. My
No
fault,
problem.
my
No
fault.
problem.
I was doing math in my head. It's a dangerous thing.
And then the 1/8 that we talked about potentially going to streets over that 5-year period would generate 13,750,000. So when you talk about like the public safety capital needs that we have now, we've talked about firing range, we've talked about a new fire station on the west end of town. Fire trucks are an ongoing need. Mayor, do you remember any projections on what a cost of the fire station or the firing range would be?
I want to say the firing range is 5 million, fire station, the last one was about 3.2.
Right. So,
Tyler, while you're up there,
Mhm.
how do you define capital? And I think now we're kind of getting down in the weeds. I mean, because we pay a lot for, the computer systems and the IT for first responders and SEOC. And so would something like that count as capital? Or is there a dollar amount or?
there's accounting rules that you can go by to determine that, but we also have a capitalization policy. So our policy says if you're purchasing equipment, which is a broad term, but equipment, the per unit cost must be greater or equal to $5,000, and it must have a useful life of 3 to 5 years. If you're talking heavy equipment or fire equipment, same dollar threshold applies, $5,000 per unit, and the useful life must be at least 10 years.
And what about capital improvements to existing facilities?
That is,
Is that a capital?
that cost must be at least $10,000
Okay.
for our policy, and a useful life of at least 10 years.
Can you email that to us?
Sure.
So I need some bedtime reading.
Because I kind of went back and looked at, our last few years of actual expenditures and things like that. And I was trying to pull out and figure out, would that count? We did a lot of work at the SEOC building. Would that count as a capital person? Just to see what that would open up in the general fund, not just for first responders, but for all of our employees.
Right. Yeah. The most general definition of a capital item is something that gives you over a year of a useful life. And then it's up to the organization to set what dollar threshold they want to also apply to that. Anything else?
Thank you so much.
You bet.
I lied, kind of. I do want to expand on one point, and I'm not combating anything, but I think it's worth repeating because Gates has said it a number of times, and several of our speakers have said it tonight. But the proposal that's put forward is one, not advocating for it one way or another. I have my personal opinions, but organizationally, to publicly speak on behalf of something, boards have to sign off on doing that. But I do think a piece of information that is important, because what I've seen online is the community is potentially choosing between public safety and bright and shiny things. And I think, first and foremost, that's wrong, because it's important to have public safety, because without those other things, it doesn't happen. But what just taking care of the basics, the public safety does, is not increase the tax base. It ensures that we're safer, which is important, but the shiny thing, whatever it is, has the potential to increase and expand our tax base, which long-term helps the sustainability of the community. So it's not choosing between public safety and shiny objects, but more so what is going to put us in a position that we can be more attractive to visitors and folks that are driving by I-40 and are going to choose to come here instead of going to somewhere else. So that way there's more dollars available for public needs, may they be public safety, streets, what have you. It's generating additional revenue beyond what we would have, because to Gates's first presentation and the second one, we have an opportunity and really a responsibility as a community to increase our tax base, because if we don't, just supporting the basics defers a problem that is only going to get more difficult down the road.
Thank you, Corey.
I can tell you too that without the public safety, people are not going to come and see the shiny things, for sure.
At this time, we're going to close public comment.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask?
Sure, Mr. Hawkins. Yeah.
Mr. Carroll, are you here? Knew you were. We've talked about an outdoor amphitheater. Excuse me, losing my voice. We've talked about an outdoor amphitheater, and to this point in time, we've only talked about the theater itself, but we've got to get streets to it. We've got to get services to it, water, sewer. Has your organization run any numbers on that at all?
We have had some initial discussion with the mayor. I think there was a meeting last Thursday. I was not a part of. We have done some analysis. I don't have those numbers at my fingertip, Andy.
I'm sorry.
No,
to
that's
ask
okay.
you
No, that's
out of the
okay.
blue.
I think the one thing that from a sales tax, from my perspective, and other cities do it as well, is that without a sales tax in this kind of situation, then all of those improvements, if they're needed and if they're done, all of those improvements fall on the backs of our customers here in Conway. With a sales tax, you have other people coming in our community to shop and spend their money here. And those sales tax dollars also can pay for infrastructure improvements. And so there is certainly a benefit from that perspective. That may not answer your question, but literally, I do know that that water and sewer in particular, for those kind of projects, can be expensive. You know, could be $4 million, $4 to $6 million in that range.
Okay.
Mr. Carroll, I think it was 6 million, Brett.
6 million.
Yeah.
Mr. Carroll, can I reflect back what I heard you say and make sure that I heard correctly?
Yeah, you bet.
I think I heard you say that in the absence of sales tax to fund these projects, our ratepayers bear that. And what I heard you say with that was, when we do sales tax, people outside of Conway bear a portion of it. Anything is greater than zero, right? They bear a portion of it.
Correct.
And if we don't, Conway Corp ratepayers, which are 99.98% Conway residents, are bearing the
100% Conway residents. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. That answer your question, Mr.
Yeah,
Hawkins?
well, as well as can be answered at this point in time.
Okay.
And I appreciate you answering it, because I did not ask you to do so tonight.
Well, that's okay.
Thank you.
All right. Mhm.
At this time, we're going to close public comments. We're going to bring it back to the council. Council, it'll be your decision tonight. Do y'all want to move forward in looking at the individual projects? Do y'all want to do it, give yourselves time to go over everything we talked about tonight and come back in a week and start figuring out which ones you want to move forward with? You tell me.
Before you get into that, if you could allow me just a moment to address something.
Sure, go ahead. Mr.
Since it was brought up again, I want to address the situation with fire department compensation. There has been lots and lots and lots of info out there about this topic, and I realize it can be confusing to the point that some information out there on social media and even on TV is, say, incomplete. All right, so let me try to complete some of the things that I've seen and heard out there, just so we can have a more complete picture of what's been happening and what we plan to do. As far as raises, all city employees got a 3% COLA raise January 1. All right. We did a mid-year adjustment to the fire department and it's been stated that it was 2%. Well, that's incomplete, all right? The more complete picture is this. If you just look at base pay only, you actually had 35 firemen get 0, but that was by design. That was the beginner firefighter and the very next level, because whatever issues might exist, they don't exist at that level, all right? So they're fine where they were for now. 50 firefighters got 2% base pay raise. 9 firefighters got 3.9% base pay raise. And 18 firefighters got a 5.4% base pay raise. All right, so it wasn't just 2%. Now, on top of that, between all with the new scale implemented, created with input from the fire department, which I really like, it closer matches our police department. It more closely matches North Little Rock. So if we're trying to get there, that we made a good step in at least getting it to look like North Little Rock. We funded education level pays, second language pay, certificate hours. And what you ended up with, 63 firefighters got at least a 3% raise. Put it all together, okay? You may not call it a raise, but your pay was 3% more than it was the previous check, so 3% raise. 33 people got at least 5%, okay? The very top, and I don't have any names on this, the top person got 8.4% mid-year increase over the 3% they got in January, because they had, they were bumped up the new captain pay, 5.4%, they had a bachelor's degree, and they had $800 worth of certificate pay, 8.4%, $6,300. Another one here, this is a firefighter general who got this goose egg on the base pay because they're brand new, but because they speak Spanish and have 600 certificate hours already, they got 6.7% increase. Pretty good. Another one, a fire captain general got 2% base pay, but because they had a bachelor's degree and $1,000 worth of certificate pay, 5.6%. There's a few more, but you get the picture. So it was more than just 2%. Okay, so we took a first step the other day that I think was more meaningful than just what was portrayed. It was also, I've heard it mentioned that I believe we've got firemen leaving every day. I better check and see what that number is. Well, we've had 6 leave this year. All right, that's not one a day, that's not even one a month. We've had 6 firemen leave this year. 4 retired and 2, I don't have names, all I have is retired or termed, and termination can be voluntary or involuntary. But 6 have left this year, 4 retired, and 2 terminated. Okay, they either left on their own or we helped them leave. So 6 people have left. That compares to last year, there were 7 total that left. In 2023, there were 5 total that left. And in 2022, there were 9, and 6 of those were retirements. So we've had some retirements. So we're not losing a whole bunch of firemen. And when we are, they're being replaced. We're funded for 113 positions. And as of yesterday, unless we had a whole bunch quit today or retire, we've still got 113. It's fully staffed. So the city is fully staffed. It's also been brought up about this 4-person to a truck that the NFPA recommends. Conway has 3 to a truck. I realize sometimes when people are on vacation, it might drop to 2, but more than 1 truck usually goes to most places. From what I found in Arkansas, virtually no one runs 4 men to a truck. Little Rock states that they do, but I'm told they really mostly run 3. And then Sheridan might. They have 2 or 3 trucks, though. But North Little Rock doesn't run 4 to a truck. Now, if I've got incomplete information, I'm sure someone can correct me. But the information I have is that nobody runs 4 to a truck. Might be the goal, and that's great. We're not the only city doing that. So bottom line is the people of Conway are safe and protected. We have a great fire department. They do a great job, all right? The people of Conway are safe today as they were last year and the year before and the year before, okay? And again, what we implemented in July 1st was a good first step towards addressing any pay discrepancy issues, and I'm committed to furthering that. Thank you.
David, I'd like to say that as the mayor, I too have been losing sleep, and the sleep is over this fire department pay. I passed out some papers that showed 2 years ago where this council spent about $22 million to equal the pay of the police department to North Little Rock. And I'm proud we did that. But we didn't spread it out over to when we don't know when it's gonna happen. We did it right then. We may have even had a special meeting, I'm not for sure. But I think we owe it, all of us owe it to the fire department to dig into the budget, to look and see where we can come up with some money to bring them up equal sooner than later. You know, this saying that we're gonna do it later on, that's good.
Don't disagree. If we can find it, I'm all for it.
I would say let's start looking.
The 2026 budget cycle will start soon. We can start looking. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, so council, what's your desire moving forward?
I would, in the interest of what Mr. Jones has spoken about, Andy, did I interrupt you? Were you about to say something?
No, go right
Okay.
ahead.
In the interest of what Mr. Jones has spoken about, I think for us to do appropriate due diligence past what's been done here, the more we narrow the field, the better. And so I think anything that we can take off the table is great. And then we can continue asking questions, digging into details, et cetera, on the other pieces. I'm not suggesting we vote tonight and that we vote on what we send forward to the citizens in November, but I would love to see us narrow the scope.
I would like to see the public service part of it, the 3/8 for it, permanent. We're gonna have to fund police and fire dispatch from now on.
I don't disagree with that.
Can we have a week or two to narrow it down in our mind what we wanted, and maybe the next meeting kind of kick it around what we thinking we want to do, and then the next meeting vote on it? That'll give us.
Time-wise, where does that put us?
We
Next
got
Tuesday, let me look.
this First week in
September.
First week. of
September
August.
8th, September 9th is
So we-
D-Day.
We was talking about doing a meeting every week if we do.
So we could meet the 12th and the 19th.
And
And-
have
and
on the
say- and-
19th, vote on what we want.
and y'all can set the 19th.
I'm out of state on the 19th.
Go ahead, Mr. Jones. I was talking out loud.
I was just saying that in the next meeting, we kind of narrow it down to what we want to do, what issues we want to do, what with, and maybe on the next meeting, vote on. You gonna be out of town when?
On the 19th.
I'm out
Me
on
too.
the 26th.
I'll be out on the 19th.
So, well,
Do we have to
we're-
have it on that date?
we can have a special meeting on September 2nd and make that the final day. Gordon, is that cutting it too close? So we're looking at the council making their final decisions on September 2nd?
No,
Is
that's
that, is
fine.
that run, that's not running it too close?
You have to get it to, it's actually to the county clerk who gets it to the election commission. So I always say get it to both by the 9th.
Okay.
So in the interest, Mr. Jones, of what you said earlier of like, I want to know where it is, I want to know where it's going. All I'm saying is if right now there are 8 things on the table, can we get it to 6 that we don't even commit to, but that we say, okay, example, not suggestion, example, we know we don't need to talk about out-of-town parking deck anymore. So let's not spend the citizens' money and time on resources for our staff to go chase that and chase down numbers. If we know we're not going there, let's not go there, right? And then let's just say, here's the things that we need to evaluate more. That's all I'm hoping for tonight of what do we need to evaluate more, just hoping that we could narrow down some.
What I was saying is, are we gonna meet next Tuesday?
Okay, next Tuesday is regular council
meeting,
business.
okay.
We
So
need to,
can
we
we
need to
come-
take care of some
every-
business.
Everybody have an idea Tuesday of what we want to narrow it down to, and then on the 2nd, we come and make the last vote. Is that agreeable?
I think- another regular council meeting, August 26th. Correct.
Because it's 3 or 4 people gonna be out of town that day, right?
Oh, the 19th.
19th, okay.
Yeah,
Well, we
the
do it.
26th is the regular meeting.
Your meeting.
I'll be here on the 26th.
And so we can actually talk it, pare it down on the 26th, and then come back September 2nd, have a special meeting, and the council take their vote on what they want to pursue.
That's not what I heard. 20, I think you meant the meeting before that is when we would potentially narrow it down. Is that right? Maybe I misunderstood.
I was listening out of my hearing aid in this ear. I'm
Sorry.
That's okay. So our next regular business meeting is next Tuesday night.
Yes.
Which is the 12th. We've got regular business we need to take care of. We can, as a council, y'all can share your list and go back and forth on what you want to see. The 19th, we've got folks out of town. We have another scheduled meeting for regular business, the 26th, at which time y'all could actually vote the 26th if you wanted to do that.
Or if you didn't get it all settled on the 26th, then we could have a special meeting on the 2nd. Does that work for everybody?
Move with that.
I hear you. I want to make sure I hear correctly. Are you saying you don't want to talk more tonight about narrowing it down? You want to,
I would like to talk just a little bit about a couple of things.
Same.
To expand on something you said you like the 3/8 for public safety permanent. Now, so are you talking about, right now, it's
3/8 or
1/8
quarter.
for public safety. Are you talking about changing that to a higher figure for public safety
I thought we
dedicated?
talked about 1/4.
There's a quarter public safety, then there's an eighth for streets in there as well. So there's a quarter for public safety, police and fire.
Last week, and that's what I like. Quarter for public safety and an eighth for streets and drainage.
Yes.
Yeah, and making that permanent. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I like that too. So let's talk about what that means. You've got 6/8 divided in 1/8. You got 3/8 for the bonded stuff, and you've got an eighth for, currently, we're talking about an eighth for public safety, an eighth for streets and drainage, an eighth for economic development. So if we're gonna take an extra eighth to public safety, an eighth's gotta go from somewhere else. Okay, so, and I'm fine with doing that. So we just need to be thinking where that extra eighth is gonna disappear from. That makes sense? And one scenario, just to make the math simple, if 3/8 is going to capital bonded projects for 100 million, if it's 2/8, then it takes us 66 million for bonded projects. Okay, so what I'd like for us to establish tonight, and I'm absolutely fine with what you said, a quarter for public safety permanent and an eighth for streets / drainage permanent. And then so, all right, so then we got time to cipher and hear about where that 1/8 is going to come from.
Mr. Jones, I hope it doesn't feel like I'm arguing with you because it's not my intent. I'm hearing you say earlier, we got to get these details together. I think my fear is that if we all know tonight that none of us are interested in Project X, that's that much more time and deep dive detail that can go into everything else. I'm not asking us to commit to anything tonight. I'm just asking what can we say no to? And if the rest of the council feels against it, I'm the new guy and I'll be wrong and I'll shut up.
So it's not that you're a new guy, but in my mind, I guess because I'm the old guy, I really need time to decide what to kick out and what to kick in. And 1 week, I don't think would hurt. Now, if y'all got to know tonight, that's up to y'all. But I don't have a decision in my mind what it's going to be. I need
Hear ya.
time to think about it.
Hear you.
If you rush to do something, anything, you're going to mess up. And we got time to do it. We weren't planning on voting on it tonight, so why are we doing it tonight?
Well, like I said earlier, I'm not intending to vote on anything. What my hope would be to narrow down to be able to focus energy. If I'm the only one to do that, we won't do it. That's fine.
I'm still listening. I've heard two opinions. Any other thoughts? Any other opinions?
I'd like for district court to be out of town, but I don't think it needs to be in this particular conversation.
I can agree
If
with
that's
that.
what you're asking.
Also
Is that
agree
what
with
you're asking is?
Yeah, and I could
something
rule out a
like
couple
that?
more as well.
I'm sorry?
And I could rule out a couple more as well comfortably.
What do you think?
I did first, you're next.
Yeah, so while I love the idea of the Grand Theater, I do not feel this is the right time or place for that. So I would take the Grand off the table now. Again, I have made 2 theater trips to New York this year to see shows. Big fan of theater. I don't feel like it's right now. That's all I'm saying. I love the boardwalk idea. Really like that one. And I believe I heard we think that the state would have some money to kick in on that potentially. I'd be wrong.
Is
But-
Jamie still here?
Did I make that up, Gates? Okay. Well, and maybe, I don't know if that's something we can look at, but if there's some interest from somebody else spending some of that money, I like that even more. The convention center is the one to me that I'm really with Mr. Jones on this one of, there's too many questions. And so that one for me is later, I think. The camp is the one that's most exciting to me in quality of place on all of this.
We do have a private entity that's interested in the convention center and the hotel.
Right.
I would hope that would be the way it turns out. I think that would be better for everyone.
Well,
Private.
but I believe what you're saying for that, if you have a private entity that's interested in the convention center hotel, they just want to do the hotel and they want us to pay for the convention center, right?
Yes, the city would build a convention center and the hotel would come along, but
So love the idea. That one to me have the most interest for me here are camp, the boardwalk, public safety, and the infrastructure stuff that we, specifically streets and drainage. That's what I think we could get more energy and agreement around.
I think if we had some more information about the convention center, a location, a generic location, I think that I could be on board with that one.
Okay, so maybe we don't rule it out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying is if we had some more information, I'd like some more information about the quarter cent